Look at this. I bought a new dress. Guess how much it cost for a custom order? That's a really nice dress, isn't it? It must have been quite expensive. $8,000. I bought it with that idiot's bonus. My mother-in-law, Susan, who casually stole and used my bonus to buy a flashy custom-made dress, always looks down on me and only thinks of using me. Does she really believe that the money I earned is all hers? However, I can't stay silent anymore. She has crossed a line that she shouldn't have, and she needs to experience the same. I am Emily, a 32-year-old working housewife living with my in-laws. Shortly after getting married, my father-in-law passed away, and I ended up living in my mother-in-law's house to take care of her since she was living alone. Since I had been living as a career woman after graduating from college, I never became a full-time housewife even after marriage. Even after starting to live with Susan, we split the living expenses. And since my husband wasn't earning much, the discussion of becoming a full-time housewife never came up. Susan isn't in immediate need of care just because she's elderly. So, I was able to focus on my job. At first, Susan took care of the household chores as she used to. But about a month after we started living together, she gradually began to demand that I do more of the chores. If you're at home on your day off, wouldn't it be nice if you did some household chores for today? I'm always the one doing it. Don't you have any compassion for the elderly? I'm sorry. I'll do it in the evening, so can I have a little rest now? I've been working without a day off for the past month. I've been doing housework without a break, too. This is why the young people these days are no good. You should stop being so selfish and think about mom a bit more. Otherwise, there's no point in us living with mom, is there? Being appointed as a project leader, I was swamped with work every day. Coming home to even more work after long hours of overtime. Feeling a bit uncomfortable with Susan demanding household chores from me, while she says nothing to my husband who comes home on time. Of course, I understand what Susan is saying. Living in my in-laws' house, it's natural to help with the household chores. So, before going to work, I would prepare breakfast, and after coming home, I would clean up after dinner, doing what I could. However, her demands escalated more and more. Do you remember where you put the laundry? I can't find the shirt I'm supposed to wear tomorrow. I even looked outside. Huh? Laundry. I'm not doing that. It's piled up in the washing machine. What? Has it been in the washing machine for a long time? I don't need to worry about what to wear. So if there's a need for laundry, you should do it. Just because you live in this house doesn't mean you can expect me to do everything for you. I never intended to make Susan do all the household chores, and in fact, since moving into this house, I had started to do about half of the chores. Unsatisfied with just that, she deliberately did nothing herself, forcing me to do the household chores. If I didn't do the laundry, I'd have no work shirts to wear, and no matter how tired I was, I had to run the washing machine myself. Just as the project I was entrusted with began to settle down, and my return time started getting earlier, I found myself preparing dinner and, a year after moving in, doing almost all the household chores. Look, I'll do it when I have time. But doing all the household chores while working is physically very tough. Couldn't you talk to her a little? Huh? Do you know how old mom is now? You're younger, so it's only natural you do it. Then why don't you help out? We're splitting the living expenses, and if you don't want your mom to do the chores, shouldn't you help? It's impossible for me to handle everything on my own. Come on, I'm a man. I don't need to do housework. Stop nagging all the time. Housework is women's work, and it's wrong to make an elderly mother do it. So, in the end, you have to do the chores. Why can't you understand something so simple? Despite both of us working and sharing the expenses, the expectation that I do the household chores was shocking. The idea of not wanting to burden his elderly mother might seem like he's a considerate son. But underneath lies a demeaning view of me as a domestic servant. However, life was not all stress. The project I was managing was on track, and work was going smoothly. Then, the company announced it would give out bonuses. My bonus was in the 5 figures. And I planned to save a portion and use the remaining $8,000 for a family trip. By family, I meant my parents, not my husband and his mother. I've got time off from work. So I'm going on a trip with my parents at the beginning of next month. I want to do something nice for them for a change. Despite my husband and Susan's displeased faces, it was my right to use my hard-earned money however I wished. I was excited about escaping this life and went ahead with the travel plans. After finalizing them, I thought to deposit the leftover money in the bank. But when I checked the envelope, my heart sank. What? The money's gone. The bonus I had stored in the envelope had disappeared. Thinking it might have been stolen, I hurried to confront my husband and Susan in the living room. Have you seen my bonus? It's gone. Well, you've come at the right time. Have you seen this? My custom-made dress has arrived. I bought it with your bonus. What? It's really pretty, isn't it? You said you wanted to do something for your parents. But you'll take care of me too, right? At that moment, I was overwhelmed with despair and anger. How could you use my bonus without my permission? This is a joke, right? It's no joke. You noticed the money was missing from the envelope. So you came here looking so frantic, didn't you? A bonus is extra money you get, it's meant to be spent. My earnings may seem like small change to you. It's not like it was tens of thousands. Stop making such a big deal out of it. It's not that simple. There are things you're allowed to do and things you aren't there? Can't you, as an adult, understand such a basic distinction? I was seething with rage at their nonchalant confession of using my bonus without any malice. It might have been endearing if they had asked for permission or requested something specific. But considering I had been treated like a maid up until now, there was no way I'd agree to such requests. Perhaps they knew that and decided to use the money without asking. I could no longer tolerate their cruel actions. Using someone else's money without permission is insane. Insane? What kind of way is that to talk about someone? Who's the one lacking common decency here? Are you being looked after by your parents or my mother? Who do you think you owe? We're living in Mom's house, aren't we? And she's the one we live with every day. Why would you spend your bonus on your own parents and not a penny on my mom? That's where the problem lies. Why does my husband think I owe his mother anything? I'm the one taking care of her, and I'd rather not live with her if possible. If she had been doing all the household chores and supporting me wholeheartedly, I might have considered using half of my bonus for her. My decision to use the bonus entirely for myself and my parents was a result of their actions. My husband's inability to understand this left me dumbfounded. I don't care anymore. But you're definitely returning the money you used. You won't get away with using someone else's money as if nothing happened. We don't have the money, so how can we return it? It's impossible. You stole someone's money. How can you say you bear no responsibility for that? Do you think such an excuse is acceptable? Despite my anger, Susan remained smug, showing no intention of admitting her fault or returning the money. But such wrongdoing couldn't possibly be justified. I was determined to get my money back. It seemed Susan knew I would be upset and had prepared her defense in advance. it's impossible to pay back what I don't have. And legally, I have the upper hand. Your family, so using the money isn't an issue. If you don't like it, go consult the police or a lawyer. Technically, she wasn't wrong. The police wouldn't handle a case of a family member using money. As infuriating as it was, I couldn't counter her argument. Let's not think anything strange. Let's continue to get along. Don't be so disrespectful to Mom. The discussion ended with them feeling superior, but I was not about to stay silent. That evening, Susan, donning her proudly purchased dress, went out with my husband, probably for dinner. I stayed home, not just because I felt sick, but for another reason. After they left, I entered Susan's room and took an envelope from the dresser. Then went to my husband's study to search for something before packing my bags and heading to my parents' home. Later that night, Susan, having returned from dinner, called me in a fury. Hello? Where are you? Why do I have to tell you that? You stole my money, didn't you? The money in the dresser is gone. Well, what could you be referring to? Stop playing dumb. You thief. At 11 p.m., she called, yelling through the phone. Such a lack of decency. While thinking this, I couldn't help but chuckle. Hey, what are you laughing at? Do you steal the money and then what? What are you thinking? Are you talking about yourself by any chance? You are the one who stole my bonus, remember? We're not talking about that now. That wasn't stealing. I was just taking my due filial piety for all the care I've given you. Anyway, this has nothing to do with your current theft. She kept yelling, clearly agitated. My husband then chimed in from his phone. Hey, you stole my money too. You thief. Return the money quickly. Where have you run off to? Incredibly, my husband was also labeling me a thief. But there was no reason for me to be accused. Indeed, I had collected their hidden savings, taking back $4,000 from each, totaling $8,000. Without permission, sure, it might look like theft. But they had unabashedly used my bonus without calling it theft. So, my actions shouldn't be considered theft either. How am I treated like a thief for doing exactly what you both did? If I'm a thief, then your mother is one too, isn't she? That's. Hey. Why are you labeling me as a thief? I'm no thief. Besides, this has nothing to do with me. Why are you taking my unrelated money too? Ridiculous. They were only worried about their money. Not even considering an apology or discussing the matter with me. Their logic was all over the place. The foolishness of those obsessed with money was evident. After being treated like a maid and, on top of that, having my money stolen. Is anything permissible just because we're family? Their fundamentally rotten human nature was more than I could bear. So I decided to express my feelings one last time and hang up. First. Susan, if you're calling me a thief, then recognize that you are too. And I'd like you to tell your son that siding with and aiding his mother makes him equally guilty. Then, goodbye. With that, I ended the call. My phone kept ringing, but I ignored it all. I planned to send the divorce papers by mail and cut ties with them. But the next day, unbelievably, they showed up at my parents' house. Open up. You're in there, aren't you? What are you thinking, coming to my parents' house? And making such a racket this early? Please stop, it's disturbing. Return my money. You thief. That's right. You thieving woman. Give back our money. They stood at my parents' doorstep early in the morning, shouting. It was a nuisance to the neighborhood, and I didn't want to be misunderstood as a thief. Faced with these two utterly unreasonable people, I nearly lost my temper. But before I could say anything, my father quickly came out to handle the situation. "What are you thinking, causing such a disturbance here? Can't you just go home? Your daughter has stolen our money and run off. As her father, you should be making her take responsibility. Just return the money, and there won't be any problem. If not, we'll just keep shouting here. How about I call the police then?" My father's calm suggestion of involving the police seemed to momentarily freeze them in their tracks. He didn't confront them head-on but rather hinted at legal consequences, catching them off guard. "Do you realize I could sue you for defamation for calling my daughter a thief? Yelling like this is disturbing the peace of our neighborhood as well. Actually, why don't we just call the police now?" "No, wait, not the police. This isn't about the police. What your daughter did is fundamentally wrong. Stealing money should be paid back. That's the normal thing to do. My daughter has told me everything. Wasn't it you who misused her money without permission? If you're willing to atone for that, we can talk about returning the money. But you justify your actions, don't you? Then, accusing my daughter doesn't hold. If there's an issue, why not file a complaint with the police? If you're so convinced she's a thief, filing a report seems the right step." Faced with a concrete way forward, they fell silent. After being warned that any further disturbance would lead to a police call, and that defamation charges were on the table, they reluctantly left. Perhaps realizing that showing up at our house was a bad idea, they resorted to messaging me multiple threats about going to the police if I didn't return the money. I ignored them all. If they wanted to report to the police, they were welcome to try. I had no intention of engaging with such people any longer. They apparently considered taking legal action. But any lawyer would tell them the police wouldn't deal with such a family matter, leaving them with no recourse. While they felt wronged, all I did was retrieve the exact amount they took from me, causing them no actual harm. It seems there was a heated argument between my husband and his mother about whether to sell the custom-made dress or not. My husband felt wronged, believing he hadn't misused any money himself. Yet his savings were gone, potentially justifying his resentment towards his mother. My decision to take money from my husband's hidden savings was influenced by his unwavering support for his mother, embodying a sort of collective responsibility. I was resigned to whatever consequences might follow, believing they had brought this upon themselves. Unexpectedly, my husband reached out, presenting a shocking revelation. "I've cut ties with Mom. Can you come back? I was wrong to side with someone like her. Disowned your mother. Can she manage to live on her own? I don't know. But I don't care about her life anymore. But I need you. Can you please come back?" "Huh? There's no way I'm coming back. Just so you know. I've also spoken to your company about this. Because a person who's fine with stealing money from family members should be handled with caution if they're in charge of finances." My unexpected confession left my husband silent for a few seconds. But my report to his company was real. Although I'm not sure about any actual penalties, he'll likely lose his place in the company completely. I continued with the discussion on divorce, telling him that I would send the divorce papers to his office and he should sign them and submit them to the courthouse. Then, I hung up the phone. After ending all communication with him, I began my new life alone, unconcerned with whatever difficulties my ex-husband and former mother-in-law were facing. I was focused on enjoying my life on my own terms.